It all starts with this myth, doesn't it? This really captivating story. Two brothers, Romulus and Remus, supposedly raised by a she-wolf.
Yeah, and then one kills the other.
Right. And bam, from that bloodshed, Rome is born. It's hard to picture a small village on the Tiber growing into, well, the greatest empire the world had ever seen.
Absolutely.
So on this deep dive, that's our mission. We've got a stack of sources here, and we want to pull out the key bits, the surprising facts, to give you a real shortcut to understanding Rome.
The glory, the conquest.
The decadence, which
Yeah.
was definitely there, and eventually how it all just sort of faded away.
A quiet collapse in many ways.
Okay, let's dive right in then. Let's unpack that founding legend first. Rome, founded by Romulus, 753 BCE, after killing Remus. It's dramatic for sure. But what's the real story? What does history actually tell us? Was it anything like the myth?
Well, the myth is powerful. You can see why it stuck. But yeah, history paints a messier picture.
Messier.
Early Rome wasn't just, poof, a city. Sources show it was more like a patchwork. Different tribes, Latin, Sabine, Etruscan.
Okay.
And they were all fierce, ambitious, probably pretty rough around the edges, frankly.
Right.
And what's really interesting is how that early struggle, that competition, seems to have forged the Roman character. Pragmatic, very militaristic, and incredibly adaptable.
So that set the stage for later.
Absolutely. It really defined how they'd operate when they started expanding.
Okay, so from that sort of mixed bag at the beginning, they take this huge step around 509 BCE. They cast off their kings, as the sources put it.
Yep, a major shift.
And they create the Republic, which for the time was pretty radical, right?
Yeah.
Power shared, not held by one person.
Exactly. Ruled not by one, but by many. You had senators advising, magistrates running things, and the consuls.
Yeah.
They were the top dogs leading the state and the army.
How did they pull that off, moving from monarchy to that kind of system, especially with all those different groups you mentioned?
Well, it seems largely born out of a deep desire to stop anyone becoming a tyrant again. But it wasn't easy.
No.
No, Rome fought constantly in those early years against the Etruscans, the Gauls, the Samnites, lots of neighbors.
So nonstop conflict, almost.
Pretty much. And these weren't just little skirmishes, they were tough wars. But that constant fighting, that pressure, it basically forged their military machine.
Okay.
And it gave them this incredible resilience, which kind of accidentally prepared them for the massive expansion that came later.
So that resilience, that sounds key. Was that what really defined them when they faced maybe their biggest challenge early on the Punic Wars?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us about those 3 brutal wars with Carthage, right? And the whole Hannibal and the elephant story.
Yes. Those early struggles were really just warming up. The Punic Wars, that was the main event. 3 incredibly savage conflicts against Carthage, this huge power in North Africa.
Yeah.
And the second war, that's the famous one. Hannibal, an absolute military genius, does the unthinkable. He marches his army, including war elephants, over the Alps into Italy.
Wow. Across the Alps. Sounds impossible.
It was audacious, a massive threat to Rome's very existence.
Yeah.
But Rome, they just dug in. That tenacity, that resilience we talked about, they just wouldn't break.
And that endurance, it paid off massively for Rome, didn't it?
Oh, hugely.
Huh.
By 146 BCE, Carthage wasn't just defeated, it was obliterated.
Obliterated.
Yeah, land salted so nothing would grow, people sold into slavery, total destruction. And that victory, it gave Rome control of the whole Western Mediterranean.
Oh, okay.
But it also unleashed this flood. Wealth poured in. Huge numbers of slaves arrived from other conquests to Greece, Egypt, Hispania.
Spain.
Right.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just, a bonus. It fundamentally changed Roman society.
How so?
Well, all that wealth and slave labor, it created massive inequality. Small farmers couldn't compete, lost their land, flooded into Rome looking for work.
Oh, okay. So it created social problems.
Huge social tensions. It enriched the Republic, but also sowed the seeds of its own instability. Kind of a paradox.
And that instability, does that lead us to Julius Caesar?
Directly. He's such a pivotal figure, military genius, incredibly charismatic, popular with the people.
But too powerful for the old system.
Exactly. The Republic structures just couldn't handle someone like him, especially with the empire growing so vast. So 39 BCE, he marches on Rome, sparks a civil war.
And then the Ides of March, 44 BCE, assassinated by senators, people close to him.
A shocking betrayal.
What's the key thing to grasp about that moment? People often think, oh, they killed Caesar to save the Republic.
Right, that's the common idea. But actually, the assassination didn't save the Republic at all.
No.
Ironically, it probably sealed its fate, Many historians basically say the Republic was dead. The empire had begun.
So Caesar's death was the final act for the Republic.
In many ways, yes.
Yeah.
His rise and fall showed that the old city-state system just couldn't cope with the power and ambition of huge conquering empire. It was a total game changer.
And what an empire it then became under Augustus, the first official emperor. This kicks off the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, often called a golden age, right? Lasted about 2 centuries.
A remarkable period of stability, relatively speaking.
And by 117 CE, under Trajan, the empire is just enormous. Britain down to the Persian Gulf.
Its sheer scale is hard to comprehend even now.
You mentioned that paradox of life earlier, though. Was this golden age, this Roman peace, was it golden for everyone across that huge territory, or mainly for the folks at the top?
That's a really important question. The Pax Romana definitely brought stability, huge trade networks, prosperity for some.
Okay.
But it was still fundamentally built on conquest and slave labor. The benefits weren't spread evenly at all. Life for most people, especially the poor, the enslaved,
Right.
it was still incredibly tough.
Right.
But what's truly remarkable about this era, beyond just the peace, is the engineering, the things they built.
Yeah.
The roads, the aqueducts, some roads are still there.
Yeah.
And those domes, arches, they really did defy gravity and time. They absolutely did. But they weren't just impressive to look at, were they?
What was their real significance then?
Well, they were the infrastructure of empire. Those roads, they weren't just for travel. They were for moving legions quickly, controlling territory, spreading Roman influence.
Instruments of power.
Exactly. And the aqueducts. They made large cities possible by bringing fresh water. These structures basically held the empire together, allowed Rome to govern these vast distances.
Incredible. And while they're building all this, they're also masters of, well, keeping people entertained. The Colosseum.
Oh, yeah.
50,000 people watching gladiators fight to the death. Some slaves, but some volunteers too.
Yep, both. It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? That level of public spectacle.
Totally. What was it about that whole bread and circuses approach? Why was it so effective for so long? Did people ever get tired of it?
It was, let's say, a very clever, if cynical, way to manage the population.
Yeah.
By giving out free grain the bread and putting on these spectacular, often brutal games of circuses, the emperors could keep the masses in Rome relatively happy, or at least distracted.
Distracted from maybe political issues or poverty.
Precisely. Trade political power for free food and entertainment. And it worked remarkably well for a very long time because it met basic needs and offered this visceral escape.
Wow. But beyond the games and the buildings, Rome left a mark on something deeper, right? Justice.
Definitely. Something incredibly profound.
You mean the whole innocent until proven guilty idea? That comes from Rome.
Exactly that. And if you think about the bigger picture, that one concept, born in Rome, becomes a cornerstone of legal systems across the world for centuries.
That's huge.
It really is. You could argue Rome's most lasting legacy isn't the legions or the roads, but these fundamental ideas about law and justice that are still with us, almost taken for granted now. It's like Rome achieved a kind of immortality through its concepts.
Yet, even with all that glory, the engineering, the law, life in Rome itself was starkly divided, wasn't it? A real paradox. You had the super rich in their villas, heated baths, poetry readings, and then the vast majority crammed into tenements, dealing with disease, just struggling to get by.
Yeah, a massive gap.
What does that tell us about how Roman society actually worked? Could that kind of divide really be stable?
It tells us about those deep inequalities, largely fueled by the conquest and slavery we talked about earlier. It was a constant underlying tension, absolutely.
But they managed it somehow.
They did, partly through social structures. The family unit was incredibly important, sacred even. Fathers had huge authority, paterfamilias, but mothers ran the households, often wielded considerable influence behind the scenes.
And education.
Highly valued, especially for boys from wealthier families. It was seen as crucial for public life, for being a good Roman citizen. Girls' opportunities were much more limited, though.
And it was a time of great thinkers, too, right? Philosophy, politics, orators like Cicero using words like weapons.
Absolutely. Eloquence, rhetoric, the ability to persuade that was real power, at least among the elite. Debating ideas was central to their world. And yet, amidst all that established order, the gods, the rituals, there were these whispers, as the sources say, whispers of a strange new cult.
Christianity's starting to emerge.
Exactly. Followers of this crucified Jewish man, Jesus, just starting out in the shadows, really.
Yeah.
Seemingly insignificant at the time, but obviously with massive consequences down the line for Rome's very soul.
Okay, fast forward a bit. By the 3rd century CE, things are looking shaky for Rome, right?
Very shaky. It's often called the crisis of the 3rd century.
What was happening? It sounds like chaos
Yeah.
and invasions, plague, bad economy, emperors getting killed off left and right.
Pretty much all of the above. The empire's borders were under constant pressure from invasions. Plagues swept through cities. Inflation was rampant.
Oof.
And the leadership was incredibly unstable. Emperor after emperor rose and fell, sometimes just ruling for months before being assassinated. It showed the system was breaking down.
What were the root causes? Just too big, too complex.
Largely, yes. It had become too vast to manage effectively from one center. External pressures were immense. Internal power struggles were constant.
So how did they try to fix it? Were there reforms?
There were major attempts. Diocletian is a key figure here.
Yeah.
He realized the empire was just too unwieldy.
So what did he do?
He made a radical decision. Split the empire. Divided it into an eastern and a western half, each with its own rulers, in theory, to make it more governable.
Right. And then Constantine, he makes another huge change.
The biggest change, arguably. He embraces Christianity. Eventually, it becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire.
How did that shift, changing the official religion, how did that really change the soul of Rome, as one source put it? Was it sudden?
It wasn't sudden, more gradual, but utterly profound. Think about it. Rome had always absorbed gods from conquered peoples. Polytheism was the norm. Switching to monotheistic Christianity, that changed everything. Morality, art, philosophy, public life, the emperor's own position. It shifted from the emperor being semi-divine to being under God. It was a fundamental transformation of identity, providing a new kind of glue, maybe, for an empire under stress.
A new spiritual foundation. But the stress continued, especially in the West.
Oh, yeah.
And then the unthinkable happens, 410 CE. Alaric and the Visigoths actually sack the city of Rome itself.
Yeah.
The eternal city violated. That must have sent shockwaves everywhere.
This massive psychological blow. Unthinkable for centuries. Rome, the invincible city, had been breached. The symbolism was immense.
But you mentioned the split. Did this affect both halves equally?
No, and that's crucial. While the Western Empire, with its capital having already moved from Rome to Ravenna by then, was really staggering under these kinds of attacks, the Eastern Empire, centered on Constantinople, what we later called Byzantium, it held firm.
Yeah.
It not only survived, but actually thrived for another 1,000 years, preserving Roman law, Roman culture. So it's really a tale of two empires by this point, with very different fates.
So the West continues to decline. And then we get to 476 CE, the kind of official end date for the Western Roman Empire.
Right.
Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor in the West, he's just sort of pushed aside by a Germanic chieftain, Odoacer.
Yep, deposed.
And the sources say no legions marched to save him, no senators wept. It just happened.
Exactly.
It wasn't this huge, fiery, dramatic collapse people might imagine, more like a fizzle.
That's a good way to put it. A slow fade rather than a sudden explosion. It was a result of centuries of internal problems, political decay, constant pressure from outside.
Yeah.
West just gradually dissolved into various Germanic kingdoms.
And this is important, Rome didn't just vanish, did it?
No, absolutely not. That's the critical takeaway.
Yeah.
In a very real sense, Rome didn't die. Its laws, they form the basis of legal systems in Europe and beyond, even today. Its engineering still inspires us, those roads. Still there, some still used. And its language, Latin.
Yeah.
It lives on in all the Romance languages. Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian. They all come directly from Latin.
Yeah.
Rome's influence is just woven into the fabric of our world.
So when we look back at this epic story, what does it all mean for us now? Rome was clearly more than a city, more than an empire. It feels like this powerful symbol, maybe, of what humans can build, achieve, but also what they can lose. Ambition, power, innovation, but also fragility.
Exactly. And that's its enduring lesson, isn't it? The story of Rome is timeless. It reminds us that, well, every empire rises.
Every empire falls.
But the memory, the legacy endures. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What lessons does this incredible story, this cycle of power, decline, resilience hold for our own societies today?
What echoes of Rome do you see around you? Something definitely worth considering.